Perfect. Okay, right. So Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome back to the Wano Report. We were on a small break for the last 3 weeks, I think. Small break. So this time we're back with fresh content. There's a lot to discuss. I think we all have a great year ahead of us. I'm super excited to keep this podcast going. I think both of us are really, really happy how this developed over the last year, really. And yeah, we really can't wait to see how things will look at the end of 2020.
Yeah, I don't know when did we do the first one? Probably like...
I think like in around April, May, something like that.
May.
Last year.
Really? Okay.
Maybe a little earlier.
Yeah, no, that sounds about right. So probably hasn't been a full year yet, but feels like we've done it for a while.
Not quite, yeah. But it's definitely been fun. I hope you guys feel we've been getting better. We definitely feel like we have.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. We should definitely maybe when we hit episode 50 or something, let's like make a reaction video to our first podcast or something.
No. That's gonna be rough to watch, to listen to. Although episode 50 is like a while away, maybe I won't care by that point.
Maybe. I think it'll be fine by then. It's gonna be like a fun thing to do. So you can hold us to that, I guess, if we make it to episode 50.
What episode is this? Episode 20?
This is this is episode 20 for the second of 2020.
Well, we planned it so well. Holy shit!
It's like perfectly timed. Yeah, I mean, do we set any goals for this year for the podcast? What do you say, Morj?
Get more views and listens. I don't know.
I think that's a great goal. Definitely.
This is great. Could have said get less views. That's the only other thing.
Let's get less. Yeah. Let's make. We want to make the content worse, the quality worse, and get few viewers.
Few viewers. Want to lose some subscribers. Yeah.
Exactly. Lose some. Yeah. Definitely. Like my goal is definitely to hit like 25,000 subscribers at the end of the year. Great.
Wait, what? 30 is too much. I want to go back.
Just deter some people, you know.
Yeah.
No, but definitely. I think it's going to be a good and interesting year, probably. I think you have probably planned a lot on your channel. I've planned a lot on mine. And also for the podcast. So I think we can be excited.
Well, people have been asking when I'm going to put videos up again, so I'll just say, I don't know. Probably like a month or something, month or two. I don't know. Maybe sooner, but probably not.
Don't let yourself be rushed. I think like video content is actually secondary for a YouTube creator. I think like Twitter is like the most important.
Yeah, I'll just be more active on Twitter.
That's fine. That's good enough.
I have been getting more followers.
Oh yeah, speaking of Twitter. So as always, if you haven't followed us on Twitter yet and you have a Twitter account, make sure to follow us there. We'll keep you updated on our channels, on the podcast. We'll ask you questions there for the podcast and also other trivial things that we like to share with the internet.
Yes.
You can find Mr. Morj at Mr. Morjman and me at Ohara the Fox. If you don't want to type that out, it's in the description below and you can just click the link there. Also, as always, a big thank you to our illustrator Revujo, or as I like to say, Revujo, which I think sounds nicer.
Wait, is that actually how you say it?
No, I think it's Revujo, but I think I like Revujo. It sounds funny. Spanish version. So yeah, definitely. As always, a big shout out to him for creating the amazing thumbnails for this podcast. Also, his profile is linked in the description below as well.
Yeah, big thanks, Revujo.
Yeah, make sure to show him some love as well. For today's podcast, there is a lot to talk about. Right, Morj? We have
a lot of stuff to talk about.
Two crazy chapters. 956, 957, and we have
60.
Oh shit! What did I say?
Doesn't matter. Yeah,
it's okay. Those were good as well.
Those were really good chapters.
Those were really good chapters as well. So that's fine. We can
talk about them again.
But yeah, just like throwback. But yeah, so we had those two really cool chapters. Of the flashback with Roger and Whitebeard and Odin, and we also had the end of Gemini's box and manga stream. So I think it'll also be interesting to talk about that maybe for a bit if you're into that.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good. And then, of course, we have a whole bunch of questions. We actually were early this time and asked you for questions a little earlier, and we got a whole bunch. I think like 66 or something. So we won't go through all of them, but we'll pick the best ones. Or the ones
some
that that we think are most fun
some
or
that are from
interesting to talk
patrons,
about.
if I recognize.
Yes, only for patrons. Only for
only patron
Yeah.
question corner.
Definitely. Okay. What should we? Do you wanna start with the chapter? Do you want to start with the scanlation thing? What's your?
I guess we
do you
could.
feel like?
You pick.
I pick. Oh, okay.
Yeah, you pick.
Let me toss it. No, okay. Let me toss a coin to your Witcher. Did you watch?
All right,
did you watch The Witcher?
No, I've not seen The Witcher. Although I'm definitely gonna start it at some point, just because people are talking. I guess it's like one of the most watched series now.
Yeah, it's not like it's not like mind blowing, but it's really good. It's really entertaining. It's well made. It's like far from perfect, but it's awesome to watch. It's fun to watch, really. So oh yeah.
No, I'm just saying, like, I've heard people compare it to, like, I always see people like comparing it to Game of Thrones, and then lots of people being like, "Oh, don't compare it to Game of Thrones" and stuff like that. So I don't really know how accurate that, comparison is, but I imagine it kind of like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it's a little bit. It has a larger focus on the fantasy aspect. It's a lot more fantasy than Game of Thrones for sure, and it also is a little bit more comedic, I'd say.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I have a terrible earworm from the from the soundtrack.
Oh, okay. Is the soundtrack good?
Yeah, well, it's like this. Have you heard the song?
No.
I'm gonna send it to you later. I'm gonna show it to you.
I haven't played The Witcher. I haven't read the books.
Oh, yeah.
I know nothing about The Witcher. I just know that I know what the dude looks like. That's it.
Yeah. I went into the series also with zero pre-knowledge, but it was really enjoyable. So if you haven't seen it, I recommend that.
Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna watch it at some point. Give us more material to transition this from just a One Piece podcast, I guess. To,
yeah.
I don't know.
Actually, that's a good point.
We could mention that. Yeah.
Do you want to mention that? You can mention it.
I guess we'll mention it now. Yeah. So over time, we're probably gonna gently expand the variety of topics we discuss here. Basically, it'll always be a One Piece podcast, but it may get a bit more varied in general. We will always discuss at least what's going on in the series, One Piece related questions, current chapter, and everything like that. But we'll see as we go along.
Yeah. So I hope you guys also interested in more series than just One Piece.
You go watch The Witcher. So
exactly. So if there's gonna be any interesting movies or TV shows coming out or anything, or other interesting manga, we might do.
Oh yeah, we could talk about other manga too.
Yeah, do some reviewing on that, stuff like that as well. So definitely let us know what your thoughts are on that. We're probably gonna do it anyhow, but still let us know what you think about that.
And even if it's a strong negative reaction, I don't know how much.
I really want to talk about certain, I really would have loved to have talked about Star Wars, for example, or like The Mandalorian, like The Witcher. I think obviously it should be something that both of us are interested in, but it'd still be fun, I feel. Like this,
for sure.
Especially
bits
since
and pieces, and then maybe more as we go along.
Yeah, especially since both of us like analyzing the story so much. I think it'd be interesting to actually compare our thoughts also on other series,
Yeah, for sure. Because we know a lot about how we both feel about One Piece stuff at this point.
Exactly.
It's oh, do you like One Piece? Oh yeah, I like One Piece. Oh, all right, solid.
That's dope.
Pretty bad. Yeah, it's dope.
So speaking of One Piece, going back.
Oh yeah.
To that.
Did we pick? Are we talking about translations or the Japanese?
Yeah, let's maybe start with the translations. And why it's good to read the officials, and then let's talk about the chapter that's not out yet officially. That sounds like a plan. So I don't know what's your take on the whole thing? I'm gonna let you go
first.
Dude,
my take is that the official is so much better. It's I guess it's not so much better, but it's significantly better, and it's I'm shocked that there are people who. I can understand people not liking certain things like Zolo or Animal Kingdom Pirates. I obviously don't like that stuff either. But it's it's easy to find certain things that are single word translations that are off or not as good. But if you actually read, I read all of Wano Act 2 before I did my Wano arc analysis. I read all of that in the official because I just subscribed to Viz or whatever. And it's just like crazy how much like Okay, I'll say this. So the way that Gemini's Box and Manga Stream and stuff like that did it, the dialogue and the translations are always like kind of blunt, choppy, and you just get so used to the way that stuff is written. It's so straightforwardly written, the way characters say things, that you kind of just get used to that and don't really think about it. But like, if you were to come into manga completely fresh and read that, you'd think that the dialogue is really choppy and poor compared to like a book's. You know what I mean? Like if you're reading a book or a screenplay or something like that. But the official translation tries to actually make it like natural flowing dialogue with like character voice and distinct mannerisms and like a little more nuanced sort of speaking basically. And it just makes for a much smoother read when you're actually reading like a full arc in the official translations. So I just think it's way better that we're shifting over to this at this point.
Huh.
I don't know if you feel that way, but that's how I feel. I feel very strongly.
I think that's actually great because I think it's really rarely that we strongly disagree about something on this podcast.
Oh man, do you prefer Gemini's?
Dude, So my take on the official translation is I support the official translation. Not at all, actually. Okay. Now that I think about it, because I'm actually not really okay. So now it's different. But like let me talk about let's talk about the time when Gemini's Box was still running in Manga Stream, right? So during that time, I would never read the official translation because I would read the scanlation from Gemini's Box, and then I would read the Japanese raw manga, and then I would buy the Japanese raw manga. Like I have like the physical copies of the Japanese manga here. Now that Gemini's Box is gone and the scanlation quality has dropped significantly, now it's a different thing, and I'm still orienting myself about what to do about it, you know. But for me personally, I really like, as you said, like things like Zolo and like the animal. What is it?
Animal Kingdom Pirates.
Kingdom Pirates.
Dude,
yeah,
that's
like,
so rough. I hate that. Yeah.
It's a little cringy, but like it's like you said, it's things that I could look over a little bit. You know, I wouldn't mind too much. My problem is actually that for me personally, I have the exact opposite opinion about the official translation. For me, the official translation doesn't represent the characters as they are shown in the Japanese version for me. Like in the Japanese version, the characters have that certain flair. Everyone has like their certain vibe and like the certain grammar structures that they use, certain words that they use. But I feel the official translation takes that. It doesn't feel to me like realistic, authentic dialogue often with a lot of characters. Like you have very sterile English in many forms of dialogue, and then sometimes when a character gets a little bit more rough in the Japanese version, in the original, I feel they take it to the extreme other direction in the official translation and basically just make him sound like a street thug. I don't know, you know what I mean? Like a street thug from the 90s. Like from
okay, so here is this is hard for me to argue because you actually understand Japanese to a much better, like I don't understand it at all. But okay, for viewers who don't know, Ohara is like an intermediate Japanese speaker at this point. He's been getting better or something. I don't know. I think you said that you're at like intermediate to beginner or something like that at some point. Intermediate-ish? Something.
I guess I can go. I can.
Okay.
I can communicate.
So he's there. So definitely in my mind, like if I don't know which one ends up being more accurate to characters' voices. I do know that Gemini's Box and Manga Stream don't put a lot of effort into distinguishing how one character speaks from another character.
Really?
In general.
I felt they did. I actually have to disagree. I feel Gemini's Box. I can't speak for Manga Stream because I didn't read their translation, but for Gemini's Box, I felt they did a rather good job with capturing individuals.
Okay, again, Gemini's Box isn't up anymore, so it's hard to pull up examples and stuff like that. But like, for example, someone like, I think beyond basic, like how much they speak, or like how what do you call, like do they speak simple sentences or not simple sentence, like Luffy's sentences are obviously simpler and stuff like that. I never felt like, for example, in the official translation, Fujitora, the official translation gives him a totally different vibe. Like, the way he speaks is much more of a sort of, like, country hick type dialogue. I never felt anything that pronounced in the Jiminy Spock's translations. Like, I'd never felt, like, very strongly different styles of speaking when I was reading that compared to official translation.
Right,
like,
exactly. Because I feel in the Japanese original version, the differences aren't as stark often, you know? That's at least my personal take. Like, if you the listener also speak Japanese or also read the Japanese version of One Piece and you disagree with me, like, let me know. But like, for me personally, the characters do have their distinct speech patterns and character patterns, definitely based in their dialogue for sure. But the differences aren't as stark as the official translation makes it out to be, at least in my opinion.
Can I ask, for example, Odin and stuff like that? Does he speak? Do characters from Wano speak?
Yeah, they
differently?
Do. Yeah, because they use the old, like, the extreme honorifics and the traditional prefixes for words. So they definitely have a more distinct way of speaking, for sure.
But see, I don't feel like that shows up in the Jiminy's box translation and definitely the manga stream translations. I never felt like the characters from Wano, except once in a while something like, oh, I doth be a samurai or something like that, and they'd be like, doth. There's small instances I remember, but unless characters occasionally pointed it out that they're speaking differently, I didn't pick up in Jiminy's box that they're meant to be. Whereas the official, I do remember all the scabbards and stuff, they do speak more in, sort of flowery Shakespearean style dialogue. And to me, like, that chapter, like, that the scabbards went from being, like, kind of punks to, like, Yasu's telling them, oh, you need to clean yourself up, get better at speaking and stuff like that. To me, that chapter hit harder in the official than when I read in Jiminy's, because the official, I could see a strong change from, oh, how they used to speak, or how they were speaking in the flashback, to, oh, now they're shifting back to, the style of dialogue, that sort of flowery Shakespearean old school style of dialogue that they've been speaking in this entire arc. So, like, whereas in Jiminy's box, because I couldn't tell that they were supposed to be speaking differently before and after as much. So it was kind of like, when they made that transition in that chapter, I was like, oh, okay, I guess that's a thing or whatever. But that's just how I felt reading that. So again, I don't know Japanese, so I don't know how much these differences are supposed to be played up in speech between characters. But I think I always liked that the official gives more characterization to how characters speak in general. But again, I don't know Japanese, so that's my opinion.
I mean, I don't think that's that important a factor in that regard, actually, because in the end it comes down to personal taste, I guess. Also, I definitely agree with you on the Wano thing for sure. So I agree that, especially that scene where it goes from ruffians, from savage basically, to retainer, that is supposed to be a pronounced change, and that probably the official translation captured that probably a lot better. So I definitely agree with you there. It's just, for me, I'm not making a argument based on technical or writing issues here. Like, I'm literally, like, I'm making an argument that I personally don't like the language used in official translation. It feels too clinical, too clean. It feels...
Okay, I know what you're saying, because Jiminy's and Manga Stream will do it a little more, because they don't have to write for, like, technically a kid's audience or something like that, right? Like, they can...
I felt Jiminy's box felt more natural in the way they adapted speech patterns. So I think I'm actually taking out Wano from that, because I agree with you that they do have a very distinct speaking pattern. But apart from that, like how the official translation goes in very weird direction when a character is a little bit more casual, like Frankie, or like other ruffians, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Like they go to.
No, I know what you're talking about now a little bit. Like it'll use kind of like what it thinks is slangish type dialogue, but it's clean slangish type. I don't know. Like I do know what you're talking about. I guess I just take that in. I don't know. I guess I just don't think about that as much, but because I feel like in general, like even though it's being kind of PG'd a little bit, I guess the style of speaking to me still like I've always felt like when reading Jimini's box or something like that, the way they're speaking to me, that seems kind of straightforward and not stylized. Whereas with the official, like you're saying, like maybe they stylize it to a point that it's not natural or something along those lines.
Yeah. So, I mean, as I said, for me personally, I think it's probably a question of personal taste. I think just from the translation, I guess, so the official translation definitely has the argument that it's the official translation and it's kind of been approved. There has been more time in translating that stuff. More, obviously also more responsibility on their part to deliver a good translation, I guess. So that argument is definitely on their side. Just for me personally, I prefer Jimini's box style.
Okay. Can I ask one thing? Wait, have you read the official? Okay, there's a big difference between the official like pre-time skip and post-time skip.
Yeah.
Because they swap translators and stuff.
I'm aware of that.
Okay. So I guess that's not the point then. I did feel like pre-time skip, I thought that the translations were the worst out there, period. And like even in terms of accuracy, like most people were saying like these aren't even accurate. And I felt like post-time skip, I personally enjoyed the dialogue of the... So maybe I'm an odd one out then, because I've enjoyed the dialogue of the official much more, and I do know that there was significant backlash once like Jimini's box and stuff shut down, and people were like, we have to read the official. I was like, oh yes, we get to read. We're all on the official train now, basically. But I don't know. I guess it's hard to reconcile that. It might help, dude, if people have like somehow scans or anything of like the old Jimini's box chapters or something like that, and then we could compare side by side to official. Because like right now I'm just speaking off of memory, and like yeah, so it's just like, I wish I had examples and stuff to show. So, like one example that I tweeted was one thing I remembered as soon as the Jimini's box went down, right? I was trying to remember what the last translation of that chapter was to compare to the official. And the first thing I remembered was something like the very first page of the chapter was something like Odin saying, oh, the world itself is, the world is round. Like, there were 3 different translations. So Jimini's box said something like that. Like, apparently the world is a round sphere or something like that. Manga Street said something like, the world is round as a marble. And the official translation said, like, the world itself is as round as a dumpling. To me, I like that third translation best because it sounds, in my mind, the most like Odin, or it sounds like more distinct or something like that. Like, I felt like it had more character to that style of writing. So that's the only example I can remember off the top of my head, though. So I need those other chapters to be able to compare side by side.
I mean, I think, yeah. I feel, so yeah, before they switched translators, I mean, the official translation was definitely also just horribly inaccurate.
Yes,
and now
very, very
I think the new translations are super professional. I just don't like the writing style of the translator, I guess.
Man, I hope somebody, I believe there's got to be somebody in the community who's got like old chapters saved or something like that. Like I think Manga Stream has it somewhere or something. Oh yeah, Arthur he uses Jimini's box pages in his reviews and stuff, right?
Oh, does he?
I'm pretty sure, right?
So.
Or yeah, in his things. So I don't know. Okay, I'll rethink it, I guess, if I can find old examples, but that's definitely how I felt.
I mean, I'm not really trying to convince you otherwise, because I feel like if you personally enjoy that style of writing and you think it's more representative of the image you have in mind of these characters speaking, then I think that's a perfectly legit opinion to have. Like it's literally, I'm not making an argument based on, but you should actually prefer Jimini's box
like,
because,
the thing that's weird is kind of like like there's stuff that we can agree on, and basically like, the official translation definitely plays up certain characteristics more or something. I guess where we're disagreeing is like, well, what seems more natural dialogue? And so that's just so strange. like, because that's like just a straight up point of disagreement, because you're like, well, this seems more natural to me. I'm like, no, but this seems more natural to me. So I'm like, now I need to kind of look back and just think about it, because like, what does that mean?
Right.
So I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
Yeah. And for me, what also plays a little bit of role is that I don't like how tightly Viz is clinging to their old translation errors, like the Zolo thing. It's like, I get that they want continuity, but I think it's really annoying that they try to stick to certain things so hard when they know, like, people don't use it, it's wrong. Just change it. Like, who cares, really?
So I understand from Viz's perspective, like, they have been making their like, in their mind, I guess, in theory, they've been producing these volumes or whatever and have built a certain audience of, like, you know, official translation of, like, Viz readers. So to them, I guess it just doesn't, like, for them to just change the name from Zolo back to Zoro would be jarring for those readers. At least that might be their mentality as a company. Because they're not thinking about, like, oh, the gigantic online scanlation pirating community that's, like, suddenly switching over to Viz. You know what I mean? So I can see it, but it's stupid, obviously, that they're stuck with Zolo.
Yeah,
but
I can see it, but it's a little bit...
Yeah, it's irritating.
In a way,
it's just
you
like...
know? Because, like, the Japanese editors, like Oda himself, like, they stated that that's wrong. Like, it's Zoro. That's just a fact, you know? So, still saying, oh, well, but we translated it that way, so we're just going to stick with it. It's like, okay, well... It's like, you know, it's a little bit like if Harry Potter or something had been originally written in another language, and then it had been translated as Harry Potter, and then it's like, you know, and it's like, but we're sticking with it because we translated it like that.
Oh, wait, quick question. What is the name of the first Harry Potter book?
Oh, because there's two?
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering for you, what did...
so for me, it was the Philosopher's Stone.
Okay, so we have Sorcerer's Stone. I know,
yeah.
So for me, it was weird to see, like, oh, why are they calling it Philosopher's Stone or whatever, but... Yeah, I guess they made the call that, like, you know, it's just going to be more popular in America or something if you call it this. So here's one thing I'll say about Zolo. Maybe one reason I don't mind Zolo so much is because I'm pretty sure when I first started, the first time I watched One Piece was the 4Kids dub. No, I know that for a fact. But I'm pretty sure in the 4Kids dub, Zoro was originally called Zolo.
Oh,
so
really?
I'm pretty sure. I'm double checking it, but this is what I remember.
I mean, I never watched 4Kids, so I can't tell you. But
I watched it when I was real young, so that was the first time I started enjoying One Piece, basically. And then I forgot about the series for a while, and then picked it up again later. But like, so originally for me, it was Zolo, and then later on, like, I saw a change. It was like they're literally calling him Zoro, like that famous sword fighter. I was like, all right, whatever. But and then later on, I found out about the translation differences and stuff. So, but like way back in the back of my brain, like Zolo seems natural because in my mind it's always been interchangeable.
I guess it plays a role. Yeah.
I guess I don't mind it as much. It's like, oh, I'm just going back to calling him like, you know, Zolo like he was originally. That's cool. All right, do you want to shift away from... Well, okay, we can talk real quick about the future of the translation situation then, because I guess a lot of people are not happy having to read the official. But now it seems like we're going to be getting these... Okay, can we agree that the scanlations that are coming out currently are worse than the official translation?
Yes, so we can agree on that.
All right.
The first translation that I based my chapter review of the last chapter on was terrible. Like, it was really terrible. And I have since then seen that there have been a couple of other translations coming out later that also gradually have become better and better. Now, I don't know. I'm personally... So since you stopped doing official chapter reviews on your channel, you don't have that issue as I have, I guess. For me, I mean, I've been talking about it in my reviews themselves a little bit, but I kind of have a dilemma because I still want to keep talking about the chapters and I still want to do the reviews. Both you and me are probably people who are still going to read scanlations even...
I can't wait. Yeah.
If I know the chapter's out, I'm going to read it.
Yeah. Even if it's in some terrible format.
Exactly, sadly. And so I'm like, on the one hand, I like the trend moving towards the official translation and everything. But like for me, is like also it's like two things. It's like I lose my passion for the chapter if I wait for a week or 3 days to do a review. Plus the second thing, now that all the big channels are actually publishing on the same day around the same time, which also time zone wise is pretty shitty for me because that's like in the middle of the night or something.
Oh yeah.
So I'm not a big fan of that. So I'm probably for the meantime gonna stick with shitty translations. I think we talked about that the other day that I might just end up yeah, I don't know. So we'll see.
We'll see. We talked about it. I strongly recommended that you just do the translations yourself because
I don't know, and then just like disclaim that people should be aware that it's my own translation.
Yeah, these are the Ohara. I mean, that's such a cool niche. It could blow your channel up a little bit too. I mean, further than it already, the trajectory is already.
You can listen to the chapter before it drops officially.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, in general, I think we can agree that it's like. I feel if you read the translations, the scanlations also, like if you read the chapter before it drops, if you're like us and like can't wait until the official translation drops, I feel you should at least support the story or the franchise somewhat. So I definitely have like the mangas at home. I have like a couple of, not too much, but like a bit of merch, I guess.
Dude, I'll say, I feel like a little. Okay, with supporting the official, right? Obviously, I know that that's a good thing to be doing.
Oh, yeah.
But to be perfectly honest, like I have gone, I don't know, like a decade reading these pirated copies, and now that suddenly the scanlations are going away and stuff, now I feel like a little hypocritical being like, you know what, should have been supporting the official release this entire time and stuff like that, and I feel good supporting the, like, obviously I do, but it's like it was nowhere near like one of the main reasons that I'm
for sure
shifting over.
No, I think we can agree that it's good to support, of course, a franchise officially as much as possible. But at the same time, I also think that if Viz wants people to stick with the official translation, they should also make an effort for people to actually have an incentive to be better.
Switch it back to Zoro.
To switch, because at the moment,
true. That is very fair.
Like if a lot of people are saying, okay, well, this is coming out a lot later, and I might not like the translation, and maybe the app isn't working. I personally haven't used it, but like I've heard from people that the app isn't working properly sometimes, and it's like kind of buggy, and it's hard to look at like double spreads and shit.
Wait, do you use a manga? Wait, yeah, I'm a little confused. What do people use to read the official? Because I just go to Viz's site.
Yeah, I think, isn't there like Manga Plus, I think?
Yeah, I don't know what Manga Plus is. Why aren't people just going to Viz's site?
It's also like a free website where you can read like the last 3 chapters, I think, of every shonen title. Yeah.
Yes, but that's the Viz site then. Is that the same as Manga?
I think
Manga
it's 2
Plus
different
their
apps,
app?
I think. Yeah, I think it's apps. Yep.
Okay. I don't really know then exactly. Like, I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. Like I feel if you want, it's a little bit like if you want people to stop pirating movies or games, like then make it an incentive for them. Make it easier for them or a better experience for them to actually support the official. And I feel like as long as there's no effort from their side to. Like, like at the moment, I'm like, okay, well, I would actually like to support the official translation, but it's just, you know what I mean? It's, okay, so
yeah.
a thing you really have to grant them is that they made it practically free to read the new chapter, which I think is definitely that's a huge step, like, don't get me wrong. And I applaud that. I think that was a very valuable step, and I think that what made it easier for a lot of people to make that switch. But at the same time, it's not possible in all countries. And as I said, they still have this enormous time gap, which I think is not necessary because, like the chapter gets shipped to stores quite early, like definitely almost a week or a couple of days before the official translation drops, which is why the scanlations can happen in the first place, right? And so I wonder, I wonder why why they are so obsessed with sticking to the official release time when the official chapter drops in Japan, because if it's out there anyway, why not publish it online earlier and then like the paperback later? I mean, yeah.
No, you're right. They can still make steps.
It would be possible. Let's say it would be possible to sync it up. And then if you have a, like, now that the big sites are gone, like Jiminy's Box and Manga Stream, like now if you say, okay, the first kind of rough bad translation of the chapter drops at, I don't know, Friday morning or something like that,
it's the same old, yeah.
Like, and if you say, you have that and you have the official translation like Friday afternoon night, like, that would be something where I would say, okay, I can wait that long.
I can wait, yeah. It's the same as waiting and not reading spoilers.
Exactly, kind of. Mm-hmm. But if it's like, okay, it's dropping sometime between Thursday night and Friday morning, but then the alternative is waiting 3 days, basically, till I can read the official. I can't
do that, yeah. I'm not strong enough to do that.
So then I'm like, you're making it really hard to make the switch here, I feel. Yeah.
Dude, yeah, because now we're actually in a really rough spot, because before, I mean, obviously Jiminy's is good, and I guess a lot of people preferred it in the first place, so there was no incentive even to wait for the official. But like before, we had it simple, we get Jiminy's right away. That's the number one thing, and everybody's good with that, and nobody minds whatever translation that is. But now it's basically like, okay, either we get a really poor experience reading the chapter, but we get it right away, or we have to wait a few days and get like, the official translation's version of it. And it's just like, there's no win situation here, because no matter what, even if you don't read it, if you're part of the community in any way, or even just watch One Piece videos on YouTube, you're gonna get spoiled by the time that Sunday comes around. So there's just no, there's no winning situation here. It kind of just, Jiminy's Box going down kind of screwed over everything.
It kind of, it took a little bit away from the community, because now, like, I think the scanlation conversation was important to have, especially after that point, and I think it was legit to have, talking whether now is not the right time to make the switch to official translations or not. I think that was an important translation to have. Just the way it happened was so toxic. It was like really hard to watch. It was really annoying. Like, I mostly kept out of it, but yeah.
I think I joined in. I was like, guys, official's way better. What have you all been like?
I've always been.
Why are people bitching about this? But then it turns out that a lot of people didn't like the official better. So I was like, all right, I don't really know. Wait, give me 1 second, because I have something coming up. I just have to.
Oh yeah, sure. I'm just gonna make a monologue or something.
Yeah. Entertain.
Entertain the audience.
Or, wait, can you say this? Because I have been meaning to ask you actually. Like, with now that you are able to read Japanese somewhat fluently, you'd say, right? Like, you could read could you read a One Piece chapter raw, and it's similar to your English reading experience, or do you have to think about it a little bit as you go along?
That's a good question. Otherwise, I would have just said I cut the part out where you have to look something.
Oh, okay. No.
But it's fine. I'll actually.
No, I'm listening. I swear. I just have to send.
Sweet. Yeah, sure. So I don't know. I think like those in the audience that maybe study Japanese themselves will have a better idea of what I'm about to say, because Japanese is kind of different from most other languages you can learn. Just because without the Roman alphabet, you got like if for example you want to learn Spanish, you can learn a couple of words and you can like study the grammar a bit and you can learn phrases, and then if you want, at one point you might say, okay, I feel comfortable enough to start practice reading, right? And then you're gonna pick up a book, and you'll be able, like, even though you might not know 80% of the words, you might still read the page out loud just because you can't read, right? So that makes it easy to start practice reading in Spanish, in French, I don't know, other Italian, whatever. Which I feel is a big advantage if you want to learn any of these languages. And if you're someone studying any of these languages, I would recommend to you to start reading as early as possible, because it starts off really hard, and then you find yourself, if you make it a habit, you find yourself easing in, and then it starts getting easier and easier, and you start being able to fill words with, like, using the context. You start understanding more words based on how often they appear. You might look one up here and then you expand your shit. What's the word? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Your vocabulary. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes,
that's missing that vocabulary word. Yeah.
Missing vocabulary is an important word.
Yeah.
So that is the easy way with when you have the same alphabet. With Japanese, or probably also with other languages like Arabic, Chinese, the thing is that you can't, if you don't have an alphabet but you have symbols, you don't have a rule for reading stuff out loud, right? So, for example, if you have like other languages like Russian, like it looks different, but it's still an alphabet. So once you learn how to read it, you can still read every word. Same for like, I don't know, Greek, stuff like that. But like with Japanese, it's, you either know the word, you either know the kanji combination you have in front of you, or you don't. And if you don't, you're fucked. You can't read it. So that makes reading in Japanese a real challenge, I think, to many people. I personally think that speaking is a lot easier than reading, definitely. And it definitely took me a lot less time to start speaking than it did getting used to reading. So now I'm at the point where I actually started reading. Actually, I'm reading Harry Potter at the moment, because like that for me is like a story that's always good for, like, it's awesome for language learning. Just
is theirs philosophers or sorcerers?
I think theirs is like just the wise man's stone, actually. I think
all right.
It's like Ken Shanuishi. I think that's like a wise man.
The Kage's stone.
Yeah, okay. Kind of like that. So it started off super hard, but I now have like the necessary repertoire of like kanjis and also kanji combinations that I could slowly start reading the first couple of pages. It was a very rocky start, and like I had to look a lot of stuff up. But then I started to force myself to look up less and less, you know? And I still there's still obviously words you're just not familiar with or you don't know, but I really started like filling in gaps and learning a lot more combinations, a lot more words that like reoccur. And I feel once you are at this point, like since then, that was like a couple of months ago, and since then, like my reading has improved drastically, and so also my entire language capabilities, I feel. Because it just boosts your understanding of the language so much. And so with One Piece, I feel whenever I switch from Harry Potter to One Piece, it's kind of refreshing, because One Piece is like the manga language is usually a lot lighter and a little bit softer. So I mean, you still have like some specific vocabulary, obviously, like I don't know, the Marines and shit like that, like, or the Devil Fruits, and so, you know, stuff like that. But it's okay to read. So while I don't get every single word in every single chapter, I guess I can read the chapters without like having to look up at everything in dictionary all the time. Yeah.
We'll move on to talking about the chapter in a second, but I'm actually really curious on this. Like,
very long answer.
So, yeah, no, but that makes sense. That's enlightening. When you're reading a One Piece chapter just raw, is that like, does that change your perspective of like how the series actually is compared to? I don't know if that makes sense. Like, does it feel very different, like the way Luffy speaks or Zoro speaks or something like that, or Sanji speaks, or? So
I think. Do you? I think you're not really watching the manga, the anime anymore, right? But you used to, right?
I've seen clips. Luffy versus Kaido it was the biggest mix of cool but also disappointing for me.
But like, did you watch the anime at any point consistently?
Oh yeah. Most of the series.
Okay,
I'd say half of the series I caught up anime.
So if
up to any sloppy.
Yeah. So if you're familiar with the anime, I feel, and you watched it with sub instead of dub.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I see.
I think you kind of get
voices,
you get a good
mannerisms.
Yeah, you get a good grasp of how like these characters are supposed to be behaving. You know, just having the original voice actors and then reading like, and then kind of for me personally was like watching the anime in Japanese with English subtitles, and then starting to read the translations in English once I got into the manga a little bit later on. Like that just felt like subtitles to me, if that makes sense, you know? Like,
yes. Yeah.
You still have like the voices in your head.
Exactly.
And shit.
Dude, the voices for One Piece are really good.
Exactly.
Very, very good.
So I feel if you're following both the anime sub and the translation, the manga, then I feel the difference isn't as stark. But there's a couple of jokes where Oda plays around with words or with certain phrases that just often get lost in the translation a little bit, or that are just impossible to translate. Which is also, it brings me to another point that I forgot to mention earlier. Because Gemini's box usually would put notifications. Like, they would make like a translator's note and say, okay, here Oda's actually saying this, which is hard to translate, or which means this and that. So you actually understand that you just missed something. While the official translation, they don't have that. They just make it, they either don't mention that joke or that pun at all, or they try to force it into English somewhat, like, which doesn't feel natural anymore. So that's also something I don't like so much.
There was a Reddit post about that, and like that post was actually arguing again in favor of that one was arguing in favor. I saw a lot about on Reddit negativity towards the official, which I was surprised about, but makes sense because people are used to Jiminy's. But then there was a post addressing that like what do you call it? Like that the official does like Jiminy's will do these translator's note type things, and then the official tries to do its own thing to just not have translator's notes. But like one of the top comments that I thought was really good and made sense is that like that is an argument in favor of the official translation, because technically like a good translation doesn't have these sort of translator's notes. That's a cruder way of doing it, whereas like a good translation, it's like I've read like European comics like Tintin or Asterix, for example. Have you read Asterix? Yeah, so Asterix, as I understand, is very, very pun heavy in the actual French language. But the way to incorporate that into English is to, obviously the puns don't work the same way, but you have to think of new puns to work it into English, and it's considered a good translation because of that. So I agree with that. Like, again, I'm biased towards the official translation, but I think that is a fair argument. Like, that is a better translation, because even if the joke is not the same, the idea is that there's a joke in that place and you try and like incorporate that in some way rather than just saying, well, we can't translate it. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. And once again, I think that's a legitimate point. And once again, I have to say that I personally prefer the other way.
Yeah, disagree with it. Yeah.
Just because, like,
if the pun's not good that they translate, then I guess it is, you lose something.
And I feel you also lose a bit of character of the manga, because okay, so Americans and Europeans, like, sometimes I guess tend to think that they're quite similar, but in reality, it's still a big cultural difference. But nonetheless, I would definitely agree that American and European culture is a lot closer than American or Japanese or European and Japanese culture. So, especially since English basically was created out of a mix of German and English, and English is still a Roman language basically in the end. In some aspects, I guess. Okay, so those who study linguistic or something might disagree. But I feel like certain things from other European languages might be a lot easier to convey into English than from Japanese, just because Japanese, a lot of these puns are just so culturally based, like it's something you wouldn't understand if you weren't familiar with Japanese culture or the way things go. And so I think having that explained to me in a translation, maybe my bias comes from me actually like studying Japanese and like having been to the country and like being interested in that kind of cultural background. And I think maybe that explains also a lot of diversity in the community, where like the one side says, okay, I kind of like just want to enjoy the story aspect of One Piece, so I don't need to know that like the Japanese author made like a Japanese pun, because I don't really care. I just want to read One Piece. And then there's the kind of people who are like, okay, I love One Piece because I'm also like into anime and manga in general and into Japanese culture and whatever. So like those people probably tend to say, oh, but like the point is that like this is a Japanese pun, and
Yeah, because I think I don't mind as much if like I'm missing a Japanese type joke. I'd rather.
Probably.
Yeah, but one thing I'll also say, because you brought this up a second ago, and I do agree a little bit more now. You said like, so I watched the anime, and like the anime has subtitles and everything like that. So when I switched over the manga, it is like reading the subtitle. It's just like reading the subtitles basically without the voice. I definitely agree that Jimini's box and Manga Stream, not Manga Stream as much, but I'd say Jimini's box, it does feel more like, at least my memory of watching the anime, it does feel more like, oh, this is the subtitles that I would be reading. It would be like a similar sort of translation there. Whereas the official does work its own stuff and maybe make it less close to the one-to-one stuff. So I can see that. I guess I don't know. I prefer the stylized style of the official translation, I guess.
And I think that's
more
fair.
To me like, yeah, to me it feels more like I'm reading a book, just like a stylized sort of language in a book, basically, versus this does feel more true. Like, Jimini's does feel more true to what I felt before when I'm watching the anime and listening to subtitles. So I guess it is just a... Let me grab a charger, by the way. 1 second.
No worries. You good?
Yeah. So, I don't know. I think I'll be fine reading the official.
Yeah.
For
I think that's
the
legit.
future, but
That's legit. For sure, man. So let's maybe get into the actual chapter now that we talked about this for almost an hour.
That's turned into very long. I thought that we were gonna skim through the translations thing.
But I think it was insightful. I actually Yeah, it was good. I think I actually had a few new insights that I didn't have before, so that was good.
Okay. Yeah, I think same. I'll have to. I want to see some side-by-side examples and then see how I feel, basically.
Agreed. So let's dive into. I think we can do the last two in a bundle, especially. I think
let's
last one.
Do it in a bundle.
Yeah, the one before was basically Odin, like Roger and the Whitebeard pirates meeting, and then last chapter, of course, had like a lot, was so heavy on detail and implications. I'm gonna, since I feel like I've been rambling a bit about language, I'm gonna let you. Not at all. I'm gonna let you kick off with like your impression of the last couple of chapters.
Okay, I'll try and be briefer then.
You don't have to. Feel free.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So last two chapters, obviously, really cool. I'll say this. It's so for the longest time, like, whenever Roger would show up in a chapter, like, the last couple chapters felt kind of surreal because, like, for the longest time, whenever Roger would show up, in a chapter, like, even in just small flashback formats, like, like Pedro, for example. When Pedro was having a memory, I think, before he sacrificed himself, he was remembering, like, oh, Gold Roger told me that I'll have my time to shine or whatever. Like, moments like that, I would always think it automatically became, like, a really cool chapter for me just seeing a tiny flashback of Roger. Even at the start of this act, I think, when, like, Odin is remembering... Like, we were getting that little brief silhouetted flashback of Odin on Roger's ship, and Roger's, like, arguing with Crocus, and Odin's saying, like, I'll accomplish this in 20 years or something, and it's only a page of it. It's just cool because we get to see Gold Roger. So, like, that scene of Whitebeard and Roger with the sakura petals, that was so cool, even though we just got, like, a glimpse of it while Whitebeard was dying. Like, basically, point is, every time we've seen Roger in the series so far has been, like, just a really exciting chapter to me, just because, it's the guy that the entire series is, like, built off of. So it's just so crazy that, like, the last two chapters, we've just had him as a character in, like, every single page, just talking and interacting with people and doing stuff. It's kind of like... I don't know. It just feels really strange and just really cool. And then, like, what's really cool is that even though we're seeing so much of him now, like, he still feels like a bit of a myth. Like that panel at the end of 967 when it was like, oh, the Pirate King laughed and stuff like that. That still had a lot of impact because it was still like, holy shit, like, I don't know. It was just really cool to see, like, the Pirate King, having that sort of reaction. It felt like really epic or legendary for whatever reason. So I don't know, the last couple chapters have felt really just surreal to read. If I were to say specifics, I'd say just briefly, like, Roger and Whitebeard clashing, that was awesome. Okay, even the ending of the chapter where we first saw the Roger pirates, like, lined up, and, like, Roger and Rayleigh and, like, Shanks wearing Roger's hat and stuff like that, and they're just saying, oh, the Whitebeard pirates just showed up or whatever, and they're like, all right, let's have a fight. That was a really awesome ending panel, and then ever since then, I think everything with the Roger pirates has been really cool. I feel like I'm rambling a little bit. I'll just say that my highlights of the last couple chapters have definitely been, like, Roger and Whitebeard clashing, Roger pulling out his sword and, like, sending Odin flying. That was pretty cool. Then pretty much all of 967 was nuts to read because it's just we got to see everything. Like, we got to see Roger's entire journey just in montage, basically. Like, all the stuff that we knew happened, like, okay, we knew Roger was here, we knew Roger was there, we knew he went, etc., etc. That was really cool. And then finally, like, that last page of Laugh Tale and Roger laughing, the crew laughing, that was a legendary moment, in my opinion. So, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I definitely agree. Both chapters were incredible to read. The only thing you could say was a little bit disturbing was the pacing, because it was very fast.
It was really fast.
But
really fast.
I don't know if you read that.
It was too fast in my opinion still, but yeah.
I don't know if you read the message Oda posted at the Jump Festival, where he was like, okay, I'm so excited for this, like, I hope you're liking the flashback, but I just hope, like, I'm getting in, like, really dangerous waters here, like, trying not to reveal too much about the end game already.
Reveal what One Piece is.
Yeah, especially last chapter, like, it was something he really wanted us to see, but at the same time, he was like, like, treading carefully, like, what can I show, what can I show, you know? So, I guess that kind of explains why the pacing was so fast.
I get, because if you linger too long on any moment, then then you risk giving it away.
Yeah.
But I definitely do think, it could have, everything could have he could take it a little bit longer just for more character interactions without, like, giving away.
But I think we'll get that, right? I think we're gonna get a Roger flashback. Don't you think?
Is this not the Roger flashback?
I don't think so. Do you think that's a Roger flashback?
Oh, actually, no. I think we'll get a God Valley incident flashback at some point. So that'll be the more.
I think we'll get a proper Roger flashback when we reach Raftel, or when we're on the way to Raftel. So, like, however that's gonna happen, I still think.
Oh, because Roger definitely wrote some shit on opponent, or like on a wall there or something like that.
You know, like with the I don't want to get it like open like too many doors right now. Yeah. But
dude, it's hard because there's if we talk about anything, it's like a lot of stuff.
But I personally, like, based on the last couple of chapters, I definitely think that Shanks and Buggy will play a much bigger role going to Raftel than we initially thought. I think, like, Shanks was always kind of important, but I feel like, especially with the last couple of chapters and the focus that Oda seems to be putting on them, like both of them, I feel both of them will pop up in some way and, like, contribute to the Straw Hats reaching Raftel in some way or form. And I think that might be a point where we might get a proper Roger flashback. And I think we'll get more enlightened about the time leading up to the God Valley incidents and leading up to Roger meeting Odin. Then we'll probably just, like, get, like, a scene, like a panel or two with Odin, where it's basically like, okay, like, you kind of already know what happens in between. We're gonna skip a little bit over that, and then get a little bit more into detail, like what happens afterwards or something. That's why, at least I think, would make sense, I guess. I would be...
No, that does... Yeah. There's different ways Oda could do it, because, like, there's still a lot more holes to fill in. But it's hard to say how... Like, it's going to depend on what ends up being important, for sure. So, like, you know, if it is important for us to learn what set Roger to first start... No, because Roger was always headed for the last island in the group. I don't know. We're going to have to see. I personally feel confident we will get a God Valley incident, some sort of a flashback for it, because we do need to learn at least more about rocks. I think that, Bakin mentioned, like, everybody's been referencing their time on Rox' ship and stuff like that. I do think we're getting a Rox flashback at some point, which means we will get a Roger flash. So there's definitely more Roger flashback work to be done, I think, no matter what. So I don't think this is the last we've seen.
Do you think that's something for Wano? The rocks? No, I definitely agree. But, like, I'm just thinking, because, you know, like, with Big Mom and, you know, Kaido.
Yeah, Big Mom and Kaido are here.
And the focus on Whitebeard, they might come. The Whitebeard pirates.
Focus on Whitebeard. Bakin and Weevil are around, and, like, well, Bakin at least is... It looks like she's going to be relevant soon. Oda also mentioned that they're going to meet a lurking legend in Wano. And I assume that was not... I've assumed that that's Rox, basically, so...
Right. Like Rox himself?
I don't know what Oda meant by that, but if there is a lurking legend, and he said it's the greatest enemy the Straw Hats will ever face, I'm like, Kaido, like, we'd already known about Kaido. I don't really know. I feel like he was referring to Rox there, so Rox in some shape or form. I'm not saying he's gonna come back full strength, but, like, I don't know.
Did he say the greatest enemy these Straw Hats have ever faced?
Oda exaggerates sometimes, but he said in the quote, it's like...
Is that what he said?
don't quote me on that, because then if I'm wrong, then
because not that I'm against that, but that would be hilarious, because then you have, well, we're fighting Kaido right now, and then there's Akainu, and then there's Imo, and they're like, okay, and Blackbeard.
Okay. I don't think that like Luffy's gonna be beating rocks or something, or like fighting rocks even, or something. That seems like, it's okay. So I'll introduce one of the legends which lurks in the One Piece world. That couldn't have been Kaido at the time, because Kaido was already introduced. The greatest enemy ever for Straw Hats will hinder their way. Perhaps it will be something related to Whitebeard. Oops, it seems like I'm being too talkative.
Oh, that's wrong.
So
but is that do you think those two sentences are related though? Like him revealing that legend, and then what was the sentence with the enemies again?
Oh, it might be disconnected. So he said, I'll introduce one of the legends which lurks in the One Piece world. Then he says the greatest enemy ever for the Straw Hats will hinder their way. So maybe it's two separate things.
Maybe.
Or again, maybe. I don't know the phrasing in Japanese, so maybe it's the same thing. Then he said perhaps it'll be something related to Whitebeard. So I don't know. That all seems to fit Rocks more so than Kaido to me. So, but we'll see. And I wonder if Oda. Oh, sorry. If Oda's at a point where he's having to like scrap some ideas or something like that, or like maybe. Shorten down the story base. I'm still concerned about this 5 years thing, because the pacing has been too like. Yeah, dude.
Has it really been? Because I think people keep forgetting that we're actually still in the flashback.
We are still in the flashback, but I would always rather that Oda take more time and us get to where we're going slower. So like, I feel like this could have been like this flashback could be twice as long at this point in time, but he has chosen to move it along at the pace he has. It's the fact that the stuff we're getting is so interesting that makes it fine. That it's Roger and Whitebeard clashing, and like Roger getting to Rafto. That stuff's gonna be exciting no matter what. So that makes the pacing fine. But if it was less exciting, do you know what I mean? Like if it was, it's because we're getting content that's so juicy. We don't care how fast we're getting it to a degree. But like it also, I would like it to slow down at some point, please. That's all.
I agree. No, I definitely know what you mean. I think it kind of depends on how the rest of Wano will play out, to me personally, because if Oda says he has to like speed a little bit through this flashback, because there's still so much going to happen in Wano, and like I feel it also. So to me, a big question is, I was always assuming that it was gonna be, there's the flashback, and then there's gonna be Act 3 of Wano. But like by now, I'm not so sure if Act 3 of Wano isn't in large part the flashback. Exactly. So, I mean, in like just speaking from a technical perspective, a flashback technically wouldn't be part of the story we're just witnessing, especially like from a Kabuki perspective. But I'm not sure. Like Oda might still go the way and say like, okay, like Act 3 is basically the flashback plus a couple of chapters of the army reaching Onigashima. Like that might be how it goes. And then I would be a little bit sad that it like hadn't been expanded upon more. But of course, if it's like, okay, we have the flashback, and then Act 3 is basically still in front of us, and Act 3 is still like, I don't know, 30 chapters of battle or introduction to the battle and shit like that. Like then I'm like, okay, I see that you had to like pick a pace here.
Yeah. I lean towards it being that second option. Like Act 3 still being, because we're only how many chapters into the flashback are we? It feels like a lot, but
what was it like?
I feel like it started like 950,
69 or something. Yeah, 60. So like,
okay,
let's say 60. Not even 10 chapters, I think.
Oh shit! Has it only been 7 chapters?
I think it's been like 8-ish, something like that.
That's crazy. Wow. Yeah, no, that sounds right though. I'm just checking.
Yeah, just research it, but for sure.
But that's in 7 chapters. It feels like we've gotten a lot of material.
Right.
So.
Right. Maybe I'm wrong.
Like a crazy amount of material.
I think and we might have started 59 actually, because we had 50. 57 was the end of okay. I'm pretty sure it was 58 where Act 3 started, we saw the scabbard standing on the coast side.
Yes.
And then
so
the chapter ended with Odin.
Yeah, I'm seeing right now 959 ended with the silhouette of Odin.
Oh, was that 959?
Yeah, so I think there was another chapter of them freaking out about stuff, basically.
Was that 958?
No, so 958 was the first time that they hit the coast, and it ends with that cliffhanger of like, last night an incident happened.
Oh, and then we go back in time.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right.
So then 959 ends with, silhouette of... So basically 960, that's a clean start. So we've only been here for like 8 chapters, basically. And I think we're going to wrap up pretty soon, because right now we just have to get Odin back to... We have to what?
9 chapters, I think it's been.
Right? No, because we're at 967, right?
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, wait, so it's like 8.
8, 9. No, it's still 9. Oh, no, shit, you're right. You're wrong. Yeah, sorry. Wait, it's okay, 960, and then plus 7 is 9.
Yes. Wait, what?
Isn't it?
No, I'm 50? Starting it at 960.
Oh, okay. Oh, you're not counting 9.
Yeah.
Okay. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, all right, it doesn't matter. So, what do you call? What do we have to do next? We just have to get Odin has to get back to Wano. Kaido and such have to show up. Odin versus Kaido. Odin dies.
I mean, it's been basically already implied that Kaido's probably already there, right? Like, in the last chapter where they dropped off Toki, it's basically already been implied that the factory's already there, so Kaido probably already arrived in Wano as well.
That's actually very... Yeah, I feel like they should... If Kaido's already there, they should have tried harder to get Odin to stay.
Right. And also, I'm also surprised that Odin would be like, oh, I can tell something is very wrong with my country, but I'm gonna drop my wife and my children off just in case, so they're gonna be safe.
Yeah. Nah, I gotta finish this journey or whatever. I don't know. It had to happen for the plot to progress. But I guess how many chapters do you think left in the flashback then? I think like 5, maybe.
I'd like 5, but I'm actually gonna go with 3.
Because of the pacing?
Yeah, actually, because what are we gonna see? Like, they have already found the One Piece in the last chapter. That's how it ends, basically. So I guess next chapter will be Odin returning to Wano, which will already be packed with like the setup, basically, for okay, Kaido and Orochi have taken over. Then like the second one will be Odin trying to struggle in some way or form, I guess, or like Odin, like maybe Odin isn't gonna like some cleanup, like what Odin's plan on handling the entire issue is gonna be, like whether it's fighting someone or whether it's like some other plan where he's like, oh, I'm not gonna fight them, I'm just gonna, Toki says there's someone coming, so I'm gonna prepare for that or something, whatever. And then I think the third chapter is just Odin's execution or not execution. I mean, we still don't know if he's dead, really. I'm just gonna assume he's dead. And then I think like what is it then? 970, I would guess, will end with us returning to the current storyline.
Yeah, I hope we get at least a little bit of, because it sounded like the way they talked about it, the Scabbards escape from, whatever. They ran back to Odin's castle, but stuff got caught on fire before they could get there. They tried to fight off Kaido for a little bit, but they failed, and Toki sends them into the future. I would hope that stuff gets a chapter,
by the way,
but it most likely won't.
Yeah, just because I forgot, but you just reminded me. What do you think about the entire Orochi backstory with the old woman?
Oh yeah, so we've actually missed several chapters. We've missed, I think, maybe 3 chapters.
No, wasn't that last chapter? Wasn't that like 56? But maybe I'm wrong. No, that was the one before. That was 55, I guess.
Yeah, I think it was the one before, because that was all Roger and Whitebeard and stuff, basically.
That was the one before.
Oh, yeah, so the Orochi stuff was... Okay, so the first time I read it, I did not... I was a little confused, because I didn't realize the order of events. Do you know what I mean? Like, I saw Orochi basically being like, oh, I'll be the stand-in shogun or whatever, and then that next scene happened with the woman, and I thought that was, chronological order. I don't know if you got it right away or if everybody got it right away.
No, I was super confused by the entire chapter.
Yeah, I thought it would have, if Oda had made it a little more clear that this was a flashback that was happening, I think it would have been a little
in the flashback.
Because it took me a little bit before I realized, like, yeah, that we're having a flashback in a flashback, basically. I think that would have been more effective. But once I understood what was going on, I thought it was, an interesting setup for sure. Definitely an interesting setup. Oda pushing, an idea that he likes to push a lot, which is basically, like, once you're in power, you get to decide what's right, what's wrong, and stuff like that. Like, thing. Yeah, basically another mini Doflamingo speech. Oda really likes that stuff, obviously.
What do you think about Mr. Two's fruit being in Wano?
That's the really interesting part. So, dude, that means that the woman is dead, right? As far as we know, that means that the woman is dead.
Or it's Mr. Two.
or it's all that stuff. Like, I did that video on Mr. Two and stuff. All that stuff goes way down the.
I saw that and I was thinking, like, dude.
Yeah, he wasn't about friendship at all.
I was literally, that was the first thing that popped into my head when, like, she revealed her devil fruit. I was like, oh, there's, like, I was thinking, oh, Morj connected, like, that the character, or he explained how the character goes much deeper than we initially thought, and I was like, you might have not even scratched the surface.
No, not. I wasn't even, I had no idea.
Like, Mr. Two was the main villain for the Wano arc the entire time,
series,
already set up in, like, I don't know, chapter, whatever. Yeah.
So, I don't know. That means that she's dead, which is, that's, or I would think, and that's a little, that puts me off a little bit, because then it's like, oh, so we can't really be guessing in the current storyline who that is.
But, that has, like, but it could also, I mean, like, this might be a little bit far-fetched, but, like, the first thing that popped into my head is, like, oh, what, like, if she had to die, and we haven't seen Odin die for sure yet, like, couldn't she have been, like, substitutively killed in Odin's stead?
Oh, instead of Odin?
Yeah. Like, she tried to impersonate Odin, and they, like, kind of, I don't know, they caught her or something, and, like, I don't know.
Maybe she was tied up, she couldn't touch her cheek to switch back or something like that. That would be really interesting. Oh, that would be actually really interesting. Oh no, now that opens up its own set of possibilities. And so we still don't know her identity.
Yeah.
I mean, like, the straightforward thing would be obviously, oh, she's a member of the Kurozumi clan,
right,
or whatever. Like, but that's too straightforward almost.
It's
and, like, Orochi even was like, is that who you are? She's like, oh, that doesn't matter, so I'm taking that as it does matter.
Yeah.
And she's not that.
And then she also had, like, Shiki's face and everything. It's like, where did she get that?
I didn't know that till I found out afterwards. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Long and storied life. That's a really interesting extra thing that Oda threw in for sure.
I feel like a pretty big extra. Like, when I let that chapter sink in a little bit, it was like, this can have, like, so many implications.
So many meanings.
Because
some things, like...
Yeah. Sorry.
No, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
No, like... I don't really know. There's so many little things that Oda likes to throw in, like, oh, this could be a thing, that could be a thing, or whatever. Like, there's so many little question marks that unless I, like, really have a good theory on it, I kind of just like to let it sit and then just be surprised about it later, basically. So I'm treating it as that, kind of. I'm not trying to think too hard about who it is. I'm just like, okay, that's an interesting thing. Hopefully we find that out by the end of the flashback and stuff like that. Do you have an idea?
About who she is?
Yeah. Besides what you already mentioned.
Not really. I mean, the question is, like, who would actually have interest in Orochi gaining
you froze
power?
Up for me.
Oh, sorry. Is it better
Yeah,
now?
that's true.
Oh,
yeah,
there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so I think, like, the first person that like pops into my mind when you think, like, who would have an immediate benefit of Orochi gaining power would be Kaido, right? So I'm like, okay. Kaido doesn't seem like the type to send, like, this old hag to a random dude.
No.
And, like, make him the new shogun so he can control him. I mean, like, to be fair, we haven't really gotten too much screen time with Kaido actually. Like we have seen him drunk, and, like, we kind of
we haven't gotten.
But, we don't have, like, too much an idea of, like, what his character is really like. So he might be smart.
No.
Like, by all we know, it's just like we haven't seen it yet.
But he doesn't seem the type.
He doesn't exactly. That's my point. Like, he doesn't seem the type. So But then the question is like, who else has like a stake in Wano? And like the only, if the world government was to be involved, like they would definitely not put Orochi on there. Like they would try to, I don't know, invade Wano some way or the other. And so then that doesn't leave too many options. So for me, it kind of has to be someone from Wano then, right?
Yeah, it should be. Okay, it could be someone from Wano for sure, unless it's
not.
No. It has to be someone from. No, dude, it has to be someone from Wano because it's like who? Yeah, like she has such an extensive knowledge of like the history of this is what happens with the clans and stuff like that.
Unless
so it doesn't make. I was trying to think, could it be someone from Rox's ship? But like, no.
Or unless someone else had an interest in Wano, that we just. And like someone who had interest in Wano and tried to basically install Orochi as their puppet, but they failed because Orochi turned on them something. Like that would be an option that is like, I don't know. Like I guess Moria was at some point in Wano, though he doesn't seem the type to like scheme overthrowing. But like someone like that, like basically similar, like going back to Mr. Two, like Crocodile, who like tried to undermine Alabasta and like install himself as a ruler. Like that seems like something he would be doing, I guess, like trying to install him like a puppet government.
Yeah, a puppet king or something like that. But no, that's okay. Wait, one thing I'll say here is that that I still feel, I'm not super happy about the pacing and stuff, obviously. But like part of the reason I feel is that like Odin's flashback, I feel like we missed some part. It's really just this part of it. The part between Odin going to Yasu's place and then Odin going and becoming daimyo. I think between that stretch of time, like Odin supposedly traveled across Wano to pick up the other scabbards and stuff, right? If we had stayed with him for a little longer and spent a little more time with him, we could have gotten more insight about like, because that Orochi chapter, for example, we learned quite a bit about like the different clans that are in Wano, a bit of the history and stuff of Wano. I felt like if we had explored that a little more by like traveling through Wano or something like that, because right now I only know about Yasu's family, like the Shimotsuki and stuff like that. Like, I feel like easily we could have found a little bit more about, the clans of Wano, the lines and stuff like that, like the distinguishing factors of the different territories a little bit more and stuff like that. Like, just a bit more immersion in the country. I felt like that was the opportunity, and then that helped spawn more ideas of like who this woman could be and stuff like that. But
it was like
maybe it's not that important.
In that chapter, there was a lot of like small detail that was hinting at stuff. Like it was just mentioned that Orochi's grandfather like tried to like he was actually successful in assassinating all of the daimyos, and like what I took from that, because at first it was implied, like when Odin went to Curry, it was implied that. Or my first thought was that Curry wasn't even part of Wano up until Odin arriving there. It was just basically like wasteland. But like after that chapter, I thought, okay, so it appears that the Kurozumi clan actually reigned over Wano.
Yes.
They were removed, and then it basically fell into chaos.
Yeah.
So that's
that seems like it totally fits. But like it would just help a little more if you can kind of make that connection yourself. I think a lot of people did. I personally didn't write it, but then I saw people saying basically, oh, this makes sense. So, just because it seems like Oda has like a pretty cool idea of like the world of Wano and like all the stuff that goes into and like a bit of its history and stuff like that. So if we could just like spend a little more time with that, but I guess you got to move it along to get to the meat of the story and everything like that. So. It's fine. Still have no idea who the woman is. Do you want to continue discussing the chapter for like?
I guess like the only thing. Then we can move on to questions. Yeah. The only thing I'd like to hear your opinion on is like the implications we've had for the end game in the last chapter, especially. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on Roadstar, like the island that was name dropped, because. My personal take is that this is now a place we have to go to now that it's been name dropped.
Oh, you think we gotta go there?
I think so, but like I'd like to hear your opinion on that. And the second thing is like with the poneglyphs, like what do you think happened there? What are your thoughts on like the endgame material that was dropped in the last chapter?
Okay, so I'll say this about the Roadstar thing. I feel like time-wise, if we've got to cut one island, we'd cut that island because it's just been it's been implied multiple times that like, or maybe not, but I just feel like, you know, the Dukes told us, oh, you don't have to go there and stuff like that, and Roger's like, okay, I got there, and then I found out about the road poneglyphs and such. So I don't know if we have to go there. My only thought on that is basically like, it's possible that Oda had to change up idea, or like he got more ideas as the series went on. So when early on he started with like, you know, chapter 100 or something like that, it's like, oh, Nami is going to be, oh no, he told Nami or whatever, like, you know, you have to continue down this route till you get to like the last island of the Grand Line or whatever. That might have seemed like an attractive idea at the time, but then as he moved on, it was like, okay, but to move the conflict of the like, I'm sure he always had the idea of the conflict with the emperors, but then coming up with the idea of like, oh, I could make it like you have to pick up poneglyphs, and then if you connect 4 poneglyphs, then you get to, you know, the actual final island or something, make it a bit more of a treasure quest or something. I think that's a possibility, but and I think this is the smoothest way he could have come around it, by basically saying, yeah, the final island is when you find out about this quest, and then from there it's collecting the poneglyphs. That's how I've rationalized it. I just don't know if there's anything that's pushing us to get there.
I'm just wondering why name drop it. You know, like, if we're not going there, why not just say, I managed to go to the last island and there I found out we have to pick up.
I don't know. Because, like, you know, islands have names and I don't know. Maybe it's not the best reason, but, like, I guess it was a cool name that he came up with. That might be a weak argument from my end, but I'm just... In my mind, I'm just imagining we're not going there.
Okay.
And if we go there, then, you know, I'm wrong, basically.
Let me rephrase my prediction then. I'm gonna predict that we're at least gonna see what the island looks like in the story.
Because Oda does he likes his islands.
Yes.
He likes showing them off. And
even if we don't, so I personally would like the story to go on as long as possible. So I personally wouldn't mind having another story arc suddenly pulled into the story, with the Straw Hats going to the last island of the Grand Line that's officially reachable. Mm-hmm. If that doesn't happen, and the Straw Hats basically can skip that point because they already know about the road poneglyphs, which is basically how Roger made it easier for the next Pirate King to reach Raftel.
Yes.
Then at least I expect that we like get a glimpse of it. That it plays like, if Oda name drops it like that, I at least expect it to be like the hometown of someone, or, you know, like, or like some event taking place there.
You were saying, like, you think we're gonna get more Roger flashback at least before he found, like that's possible. A possibility. Like, we get a glimpse of it there, basically. So I could totally see that. I just don't know if the Straw Hats are good, because we gotta get to Elbaf, and then I don't know, maybe not Elbaf. I don't know. We'll see.
The Elbaf report.
And then the thoughts on the end games. Okay, so people have been saying that, like, we got a lot out of these last couple chapters, basically. And I thought that they were really cool chapters to read, obviously, like really fun, exciting chapters to read. It felt surreal the entire time. But I don't think we got that. I personally don't think we got that much stuff, like, new information out of there. To me, we only got more questions in my mind. I don't think Oda answered too many questions out of this, other than, like, some basic stuff like, okay, what was Roger's journey specifically like, kind of, but I don't think we got new stuff out of it. I know that, like, Arthur, for example, is working on some huge analysis, he says on Twitter, so he solved a bunch of stuff, it looks like, but I personally didn't learn that much new stuff. So, for example, like, Odin was writing in his notebook towards the end of the chapter, like, okay, so we got all the answers, we found out about the Will of D, the Void Sentry, I think, the ancient weapons and stuff. Like, he mentioned multiple things. We found out about all this stuff. We even found out about how Wano connected to everything. But we the reader did not. Like, we just know that Roger did. In my mind, we just followed him through the steps of it, and we got a bit more insight. Like, we saw him talking to Neptune and finding out about, you know, Poseidon, what Poseidon needs to be, but I don't think we got any new information about Poseidon. We, maybe from the translations I read or whatever. The one thing is Laugh Tale, right? That's the big one. And for that, which I thought was, like, that's one of my favorite moments post-time skip in One Piece. I really, really like that panel. But for that, I felt like my understanding is that based on everything we'd seen beforehand, it seems like Roger was just too early. And based on the stuff that, like, you know, they've said in the past too, Roger came. So it might have just been like, it's some crazy treasure that he can't get. And that's why that they were all laughing at it, basically, because that's what he would do. So, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think also So I think what has been, so maybe we didn't learn anything new, but like we learned a little bit more about priorities and importance of certain elements. So I think we definitely learned that Joy Boy was probably a lot more influential, or it confirmed how influential Joy Boy was. Well, it wasn't very clear.
He's the guy.
Him.
He's the dude.
He's the Roger. Yeah,
leaving this.
He's like the main character from the Void Century, basically.
Yes, he's the Roger from back then, I guess, or the Luffy. Yeah.
And then the second thing we learned is like it seems like Roger was really after the ancient weapons. So, and since Poseidon, so Shirahoshi wasn't born back then, and maybe the ancient weapons are needed to whatever it is, reunite the world or whatever it is, fight the world government.
We did learn that.
So that might, like, I feel like that is what I took away, that the biggest or the most likely reason for Roger not being able to act upon finding the One Piece or finding Raftel, it was basically because he hadn't access to all the ancient weapons, because one of them was not born yet, and we don't know what about what it is about Uranus. So
one thing I wonder, do you think from the chapter that like by the end of it, like we know for a fact that Poseidon, he didn't have that, so that's a big loss, but do you think that that's the only, after he read I guess this is pure speculation, but after he read whatever Joy Boy had left behind, was Poseidon the only thing that the only reason that he can't do it yet, or is there some other stuff that has to fall in line? Because, for example, remember, like, Odin also has, Odin's also saying stuff about, like, 20 years from now, something, like, I'll be able to do this and stuff. So is it all dependent on Shirahoshi, or is there some other factors that are playing into this additional 20 years timeline and stuff like that?
Probably, right? Mm-hmm. I would expect that it's, like, a bigger picture, that certain factors have to fall in line, and I guess, like, Shirahoshi not being born was, like, one of them.
One of the main ones, but
It feels, I don't know. Feels like Vivi might play, like, or Alabest. I mean, that's, like, always been the center of speculation. That's, like, feels at least something like that might be playing a part in that as well. We'll see. I'm super curious what we're going to get out of that. One thing I was thinking, what I think we had been talking about previously, was that it was actually, officially it was last chapter that it was revealed that the last island is actually called Laugh-Tale. And literally no one cared because it was out with the movie.
Yeah, because of the
and
Stampede thing.
I enjoyed the movie. It was like the first One Piece movie I actually went to and watched, like in the cinema. I enjoyed it, but I personally think that the like dropping that detail at the end of the story was just like needless hype by Oda's editors.
I definitely agree.
It would have been, because that would have been like the scene, the reveal of that chapter, and it was. For everyone, it was just like the moment. Like, we knew that.
It was a nice connection in that it was like, okay, we see why it was called Laugh-Tale. It was like the pirate king himself named that and stuff. So I still like that moment when it's like, let's name this island Laugh-Tale. And here's, I definitely agree with you 100% because, I'm going to complain about this a little more in a second about, like, in general, I feel like Oda and the editors have been going too hard on their reveals stuff, recently outside of the series, but I'd say also that it's possible that if we had gotten that reveal just in this chapter, Laugh-Tale, like without knowing about the context from Stampede, people might have been like, oh, is this just like a poor translation of Raftel, for example? Because like I feel people might have been a little confused at that point, possibly, or we could have just taken it like at face value. So I don't know what my reaction would have been. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's possible.
But it would probably have been still like an oh moment. Like, whoa.
Yes, an oh shit moment. It was a really big moment that was missed out on because they let it out too early. And dude, other stuff, like, you saw that thing about, like, Oda dropping that thing about Sabo, Vivi, Hancock. Do you remember that? That really, really bothered me. And, like, when the editors do it, it bothers me a lot. I'm like, god damn, these damn editors and stuff. But when Oda himself does it, that really bothers me because I'm like, dude, like, why are you, like, editors, like, I guess they're doing it for publicity or something like that, or to sell more volumes or like, increase hype, but, like, you're the author, you shouldn't be doing this type of thing, I think, like, and I have crazy respect for Oda, but, like, I feel like you shouldn't do that sort of thing, you know what I mean?
I think it's okay to tease, definitely, but you should...
not even those.
Keep it in check.
I don't think.
Yeah. Like name dropping characters and everything.
Yeah, name dropping who. Like even just saying like next year will be really exciting. Yeah. That's awesome. Or like there will be some crazy stuff that you guys won't expect.
Or even saying stuff like, oh, you'll learn more about the world, or like vague stuff like that. Then I'm like, okay, that can be anything. That's dope. I'm looking forward to that.
I'd say like the lurking legend stuff that he mentioned. I'd say that's like the borderline, where I'd put that at the borderline. Like, okay, I'm cool with that. That is, because that is a really big question mark. That raises a big question mark. But like with the Sabo VV Hancock thing, it's just like these are events that we know are going on right now, I guess, and it's basically teasing or confirming that like, oh yeah, something exciting is gonna happen. I'd rather just see it happen. So that upsets me. Also, the stuff that they'd said, about like One Piece is ending in 5 years. Again, I still don't know if that's like a marketing push to get more volume sales and stuff, like basically implying that it's the end.
Well, I think I remember that one of the editors said, okay, when they asked him about it, that he was like, oh well, it's not literally 5 years. It's just like that's when it might be ending, and like we're trying to slowly come to an end, but like it might be long. Like he's not expecting it to be 5 years. So I think I read that's like one of the editors backtracked a little there. Okay. I was like,
okay, that's comforts me a little bit, but I do feel like in the last couple years they've been more hardcore with the hinting on
with
stuff.
The speed for sure.
I don't like that as much. But
so we get into questions a little bit.
Yes, and honestly, like there's no chapter next week, right? So like we have plenty of time to talk more about.
We should get into.
I feel like we left out a lot of potential discussion for the last.
Maybe we can get a nice guest on for next time as well. Talk about that stuff.
Oh, true. See what their thoughts are.
Yeah.
Because I got to wrap in about 20 minutes.
Yes, let's get some questions in. We have only 60 or 70 to go, so that should be manageable in 20 minutes. Okay, I'm gonna pick one for you. Just so we can start. So Revujo, our thumbnail master, is asking, this is for Morj. Thank you for excluding me.
Oh, cool.
Yep. Thanks. I'm not offended or anything. But fuck. So, do you think, Morj, that in the... No, just kidding. Do you think that in the incoming Odin versus Kaido encounter, could we see some foreshadowing of how Kaido will be defeated in the end, thematically speaking? Like Crocodile was sent flying or Doflamingo was put down to earth?
Oh, yeah, I would really hope so. Let me think for a second. It's just like my opinions of how Kaido will go down are too drastically different, I think, from a lot of people's opinions. So I'd have to go. I'm not trying to like.
No, go for
play
it.
that up or whatever. My thought is so different or whatever. I'll just say,
do it.
I still think it's Conqueror's Haki in the end that does Kaido in, which is, I think that's not the popular opinion.
Conqueror's Haki?
So, yeah, I still think that that's that's what does Kaido in. Because I do think that this arc is very important for Luffy's growth. I don't think that this is me going with the assumption that they don't win, in the raid of Onigashima, and that there's another phase to this arc. So this is going with that assumption. I do think Luffy will have armament Haki down by the end of this act or whatever, but I do think Conquerors is the final step for him to, I will say one thing with Revujo. The thing that I think Oda has been playing up a lot with Odin is that Odin rushes into battle without his friends, basically, every time. And he's been playing that up, I think, since... even back when Odin ran off to take on Ashura Doji and stuff by himself, but he's been playing that up a lot, like Odin leaving Wano by himself, leaving his allies behind.
You mean it's like a negative example?
Yes, I think that these Luffy are all, like, I don't think that that's a positive trait for Odin, basically. I think that so far he's been, getting away with it and everything like that.
And Luffy...
But I do think, like...
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean.
I think that's something Luffy will have to... I do think
better.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so I do think it's in my opinion, a lot of, as I see Wano shaping up, I do think that the second half of Wano that's approaching, I do think is going to be very focused on Luffy and the Straw Hats, how important the Straw Hats are for Luffy. So I do think that there'll be a big part where they're protecting him from Kaido or something at some point. And then I do think that it comes to a close with Luffy beating Kaido after the crew. So I do think it's an overall group effort, but I do think at the end of the day, there's just been things that, in my opinion, make it set up that it's going to be a bit of a combination sort of thing where like we have to see the crew's value, but then also Luffy has to be able to protect his crew and stuff at the end of the day. So it goes both ways. I do think that one thing we will see is Odin, like usual, will be going after Kaido by himself. The same way he chased after Whitebeard right away by himself, not waiting for the crew. The same way he chased after Roger by himself without waiting for the crew. Or, yeah, he just does that every time. And he's done that a lot through the last couple chapters. And I think he'll do that with Kaido and Dai, basically. And maybe it would have been different if he'd waited for his scabbards, though probably not, or so. But I'm sure they would feel that way or something like that. So I don't know.
I guess that's
all I'll say.
That's a fair point, because Luffy has done a fair share of running off on his own as well.
Yeah,
for sure.
He does have that tendency. And I wonder if we get to Onigashima and he does something like that too. Although I don't know. I don't know. That's very speculative, though. Basically, that's kind of me just fan fictioning it at the moment, I guess. But that's how I see it. So we'll see. If Odin does run off after Kaido by himself and get fucked up, then I will view that as some evidence that that's going to play a role in like Luffy's storyline coming up, basically. So we'll see. What you think?
Yeah, no, I think I agree with you. I personally, the only thing where our opinions might differ a little bit is that I agree that I think it's Haki that's gonna do Kaido in. I think it's gonna be armament. But if it's gonna if we're already gonna get into Conquest this arc, I'm not gonna mind. Like, it's not like an idea I despise. I just personally don't think it's likely. But I'd be on board with that. I personally rather think...
Yeah, that's totally fair.
I think we talked about this before. I personally rather think that Conquest Haki is going to be something that Luffy will have to confront Shanks about, which is going to be like the mark of Luffy being worthy of returning his hat to Shanks, and like them clashing a little bit. But it might also play out differently, for sure. So we'll see.
Yeah. Again, like in my mind, I imagine Luffy comes to Shanks so in my mind, he needs to leave this arc basically having that conquest.
Oh, so you think Shanks doesn't have to be like training
in my mind, at least in my mind, when they meet Shanks and such, there's no that's not an improvement arc. Okay. That's a trial arc or a test arc.
Or it's like right.
Pretty much, basically. Maybe they improve a little bit or something, but I don't know. Yeah,
we'll see.
So
I like both, I guess. I could live with both, to be honest. So.
I think it'll depend on how, the rest of the story
goes. Oh, for sure.
Wait, let's get a couple more questions.
Yes.
Wait, I'll pick one for you. Hold on. Shit, where'd my post go?
Oh, quick question from the Red Force podcast. Thanks, by the way, for the amazing comic. If you haven't read it, definitely check it out. And Eric is asking, do you think you guys would make a good cop duo? And I think we'd do the best.
Sure. That'd be fun. No. Big shout outs to Eric for portraying us as a as a cop duo. I liked our designs. Thought our designs were cool.
I mean, and I really like the detail, like the attention to detail, because my biceps was definitely accurate.
Very clean. No, being a cop duo would be fun. Who'd be good cop, bad cop?
For sure. Oh, you can definitely be the bad cop.
That's fine. Okay. Yeah, you're very I think you'd be too polite or friendly, I think. Or we both might have that problem, but yeah, maybe we'd both just be good.
Especially like me with the mask, I can
the mask would be intimidating.
That'd be good enough. Sweet.
All right. Yeah. Wait, Dritz has a question.
Oh, a riddle?
Have we gotten any of these? No, we got the last one.
Dude,
it was egg.
Dude, definitely. Do you think? So I'm not sure, but if Dritz, if you're listening, because I'm suspecting that you're not even listening to this podcast, but if you are, you definitely have to give us the answer to the riddles.
Yeah, we didn't get the first. We did not. Get
and if you're not listening, why are you posting questions?
Yeah, just. Let me see. Alive without breath, as cold as death.
Oh, it is a riddle. It actually is a riddle.
It is a riddle. He's never given us a real question.
Oh my God.
Alive without breath, as cold as death, never thirsty, ever drinking, all in mail, never clinking.
Is it like chainmail or is it like postmail? It's probably chainmail, right?
You're just latching onto the mail part of it.
Oh, because I feel like that's confusing a little bit.
Is that the most part? Yeah. Oh yeah. I get. Oh, you're saying that part. I thought you were giving that as your answer.
Oh no.
Oh, okay. I was like, it's not just. No, yeah, maybe it's Yeah, I guess means like chainmail.
But maybe that's the fun part. I don't know. Am I thirsty or drink?
Maybe that is just the answer. It's just chainmail. So it's all armed, but it's never clinking.
Yeah. But maybe that's...
These are too hard.
Yeah, these are too hard. And I feel...
You should give us some easy ones.
Shit.
Here's a simple riddle for you. See if you get it. All right. If you're running in a race and you pass the person in second place, what place are you in?
Second place.
Oh, that's pretty good. All right.
Thank you.
A lot of people say first place. They don't think about it.
I'm not old people.
Secrets, that's a riddle. That's a good riddle.
And that was fast. It's not like 10 minutes of silence in the podcast.
Yeah. Oh, wait. I'll give you one more quick one.
Okay.
All right. If you're digging a hole, it's a square hole. All right. This hole is 3 feet deep, 4 feet wide, 5 feet long.
Right.
All right. How much dirt is in the hole?
It's a hole. There's no dirt in the hole.
Oh, okay. Yeah, see, these are good riddles. They don't make you feel bad. You get them.
But it's good.
Not
it's
stress-free. All right.
Let's see.
I don't know the answer to this.
I like this one, for example. Okay, let's push the riddle to next week. So we have more time to do riddle time.
Right.
What about this one? How did the world actually find out that Roger found the One Piece in the first place?
Yeah, that was a little weird because I just assumed that can't anybody just go around saying that they found the one? Like, there's not really a proof or anything like that, right?
I was like I guess Roger... I'm sure Roger, like, went to talk to certain people about it, and, like, the government had their spies around, I guess.
Yeah, so maybe it just got out. Like I guess Roger didn't go out and announce to the world, like, oh, I found the One Piece. It's just, like, information was gotten on it, like, holy shit.
But it was, I think they showed a panel where it was, like, in the papers, right?
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, it might have leaked to the, like, he didn't just go out and announce it to the world, but, like you're saying, information got out that he had found the last island or whatever, and then it got published in the papers.
Right. What else do we have?
So, yeah. Oh, no, one other thing that was interesting that was revealed, I guess, was that, like, people had known that there is some, like, island with great treasure or something like that before Roger. You know what I mean? Like, I always thought that One Piece, like, the concept of it was something that was introduced after Roger said, on his death stand or whatever, told people that there's a great treasure on a certain island out there. But it sounds like, there was already a legend out there about this final island of the Grand Line or something.
Right. I guess so. Food for thought.
Yeah. Okay.
What else?
Let's
do 2 more.
Yeah, I don't know which ones.
There's a couple about Shanks and Buggy. So I'm just gonna condense it into one question. Do you think that Buggy and Shanks will ever reunite? And do you think that Shanks didn't go to Raftel so far because he wants to go with Buggy, as he promised in the last chapter?
I don't think that they're... Okay, I personally don't... I would agree that I could definitely see them going to Raftel together, or something like that. Because based on what you said recently. Right. So I could believe that. I don't know if Shanks is actually waiting on... But, like, I feel like... let me think. Wasn't there some flashback of them basically separating after the,
after the execution?
After the execution or whatever, and they're like, all right, we're just gonna go our separate ways. So I don't know if Shanks has been waiting for Buggy.
I think
when they met
Shanks offered Buggy to join his crew, and then Buggy was like, no, I'm gonna do my own thing. And I was like, okay, sure.
Yeah. I don't think I think they were really tight at that point in time, and like Shanks still probably would care about and protect Buggy or something like that, but like I don't think it's like Shanks has been sitting around waiting all these years. Like, he has his own crew and stuff now that he's probably a lot closer with.
You know what? So, quick point on that. Maybe we can end on that, actually, because I think you have to run, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what I think is interesting, like Buggy as a character in general, is I think is super interesting because I'm not sure. Should I start with the positive or the negative? Because
start with the positive.
Okay, I'm gonna start with the positive. I think Buggy has turned into an amazing character in the story. I really enjoy it, and I think
I remember your video. Yeah.
Yes, and I think the role that Oda is giving to him is really cool. Like the twist he has experienced, and now like it's not really negative, but like my personal impression is that with Buggy is like one of the few characters you can actually, at least I personally think you can actually see that Oda has added details and changed his mind about the character while writing the story. You know, because
no, you're right. Early Buggy.
Yeah, because if you like, if I'm sure if Oda had that idea about Buggy, as we've been getting it laid out in the last couple of chapters at the beginning of the story, I'm sure Buggy wouldn't have been portrayed in the way he had been, like executing one of his men and being like this comical antagonist character. Yeah. You know. And I'm also sure that, for example,
I forgot he executed.
Yeah. If Buggy, like if Oda had that image of Buggy in mind already, I'm also sure Buggy would have never attempted to actually execute Luffy.
I think he still would have attempted to execute Luffy. Yeah. Because he's not like
he's not nice, but you know,
I don't think he would have executed one of his own men to that degree or whatever. Right. But I could definitely see Buggy like trying to kill. Like, Buggy intended to execute Whitebeard, for example. Like, I think he obviously couldn't do it, but in his mind, I think he was hyping himself up to, like, take Whitebeard's head and stuff like that. I don't think he would shy away from, like, killing in that sense. But I do agree that he's definitely softened. Like, the Buggy we initially saw, like, Buggy doesn't even get that upset about his nose anymore, for example. Like, he used to have, like, a temper and stuff like that. There's definitely aspects of his personality that have changed.
Yeah. He went from, in my opinion, just a flat, comical antagonist. And then he went from there to, and then I think there was already, like, we already learned in that, what was it, like Orangetown, I think? We already learned that, like, he was on the same crew as Shanks. So we already knew that, but Oda apparently wasn't yet aware of to what degree he would actually incorporate him into the story again. Yeah. So I feel he just introduced him as a flat villain, and then as the story extended, he like added layers underneath, which with Buggy's character I feel are noticeable, but I still enjoy them, I guess, if that were to...
Wait a second, do you think Oda had always planned that Shanks is on Roger's ship?
Also not so sure, actually. I'm also not sure about that.
That one's a little up in the air, right? Because then, like, so then it's just like, once Shanks was... If Oda had not planned that, then once he made that decision that Shanks has to be on Roger's ship, then that suddenly automatically means that, you know, okay, well, that means Buggy was on Roger's
I guess
ship.
that's kind of what it feels like, you know? I guess that would, I think that would be legit, that at one point, Oda was like, oh, actually, I think I'm gonna make Shanks, like, I don't know, around, like, when he was, like, writing chapter 80 or 100, and he was like, I'm actually thinking Shanks might not just be this random dude that was, like, a pirate and was, like, roaming around the sea, but he was actually, like, an important character in the entire story. And then he was like, that's a cool idea, I'm gonna do that. And then he was like, oh fuck, but then I have to make Buggy important.
Yeah. And then he softens up because he's like, well, that Buggy wouldn't have been on Roger's ship. That Buggy's too nasty. Roger wouldn't have had a guy like that or something like
and
that.
Like Shanks wouldn't be
maybe
hanging out with him. Yeah.
Wait, there was one thing I was trying to think of, but now I've forgotten. Yeah. Oh, no, just that, I don't know if you ever felt this way, but like at the very early on in the series, because the first One Piece scene that I ever saw was Buggy had Luffy in a cage, was firing up a cannon basically. Then Zoro shows up. Zoro tries to cut Buggy. Buggy separates into his parts, and then he stabs Zoro and stuff like that. That was the first One Piece scene that I had seen. And at that moment, I thought Buggy was an awesome villain. Like, not a comical villain, but just like a you know, a freaky, awesome villain. And I was really young at that time and stuff like that. Right. So, like, it's strange to me, like, how my perception of it, like, I was totally off base about, like, that villain based off of that scene, basically, at the time. And what how low he is sunk at this point, basically.
Yeah. I think that's a good spot to end this discussion.
That's a good spot to end it. This was a really long... really long recording.
We don't have a new chapter next week, so we still have a lot of time for other questions and other discussions in the next week. That sounds good. And as always, thanks so much for all your questions. We're always, of course, in the uncomfortable situation to have to pick a few questions, but still keep them sending in, and we're definitely going to have podcasts where we're going to take more time for your questions anyway.
Yes, we should have this time.
We should have this time. Yes. Yeah. That's true. That's our fault. As always. Oh, shit! And big announcement at the end of the podcast that we forgot completely at the beginning. This podcast is now available on Spotify.
Oh shit! Yeah.
I completely forgot about it.
Okay, pin a comment or something.
Yeah. So we're now officially also available on Spotify, on iTunes Podcast, on Google Podcast, wherever you want to find us. Just look for the Wano Report, and we'd be happy to have you listen to us wherever you want to go. So you're not bound to YouTube. Just make sure to support the podcast in some way or form. Either leave us a review.
Support the official release.
Yeah, leave us like a 5-star review on iTunes or on Spotify, or at least come to YouTube and like the video and then listen to the podcast. That'd be great. So we can keep this going. Otherwise, I think that's it. Anything else you want to say?
No, talk to you all next week.
Sounds great. See you guys.